Good morning. They always say that the lighting is right if the lights are blinding you. I've got my visor down right now because I'm on the way to Tri-Cities to go hang out with my best friends, all the local pastors from up and down the Yakima Valley and even further about. All that said, we're in John 17 today, John 11, verse 17 today. And it says, so when Jesus came, he had found that he had already been in the tomb 4 days. So quick recap. We were reading about Jesus going to his good friend Lazarus, who was sick. And he waited 2 days before leaving, does a 2-day journey there, find out he's been in the tomb for 4 days. So obviously Jesus hung around right until Lazarus died before he even took off. But again, he said, I'm thankful. He told them he's dead. Jesus already knew. And he said, I'm thankful because it is for the glory of God. And if I had gone and healed a sick man, it would have been the same miracle as if I had gone and healed a dead man. So that's just a good reminder before we continue on, how sometimes God will let us sink deeper into trouble to provide an opportunity where he could potentially do a greater miracle. So, he had been in the tomb 4 days. Verse 18 says, now Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles away. And many of the Jews had joined the women around Martha and Mary to comfort them concerning their brother. Now Martha, as soon as she heard that Jesus was coming, went and met him. But Mary was sitting in the house. Now Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that whatever you ask God, God will give you. Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. Martha said to him, I know that he'll rise again in the resurrection at the last day. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he may die, he shall live. And whoever lives because he believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? She said to him, yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who has come into the world. You know, we often hear the story, and pastors teach the story of Mary and Martha, where Martha was busy working, but Mary was there worshiping at the feet of Jesus. I find it interesting that now, in this later event, Mary stays in the house mourning over her brother, but Martha's the one who comes out and starts talking to Jesus and starts addressing the issues and starts talking about her faith that he can raise him again. And of course, she was originally thinking of the resurrection, that we're all going to live in our bodies again. We're going to get new upgraded bodies, the Bible tells us, and there's a lot of great scripture talking about the resurrection. But that said, it just reminds me that Mary wasn't the good one and Martha wasn't the bad one. You know, Mary wasn't the faithful one and Martha was faithless. It's 2 stories about 2 different women with 2 different personalities, and we get to see maybe the positive and negatives of these women in different scenarios. Some people are optimistic, some people are more realistic. My wife is a realist. I'm quite the optimist. But that's not a bad thing, because I would go off foolhardy, believing everyone and just assuming everything's going to go great. And if it wasn't for my wife, holding down the fort, we'd probably run into some problems. And so maybe I'm the Mary and she's the Martha, but I've learned a lot from my Martha. And so it's just a good reminder. Here's another story where it's almost like the roles are reversed. And I think as we continue on, I think we'll see that Martha was really the one really acting out more in faith in this event. And so, verse 28, when she had said these things, she went her way and secretly called Mary, her sister, saying, the teacher has come and is calling for you. So she's trying to get her sister out of the house. Mary is maybe the emotional one. Martha may be more level-headed, and Mary's just doesn't even want to come out. So she's kind of doesn't even say he called her. She's like she's lying, like, oh, the teacher wants you. Come out and see Jesus. I would hate to say it's okay to lie, but if you're lying to your friends to get them to come to see Jesus, maybe it's okay. All right, so as soon as she heard that, she arose quickly and came to him. Now Jesus had not yet come into the town, but was in the place where Martha met him. Then the Jews who were with her in the house and comforting her, when they saw that Mary rose up quickly and went out following her, saying, She is going to the tomb to weep there. Then when Mary came to where Jesus was and saw him, she fell down at his feet, saying to him, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Therefore Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who came with her were weeping, and he groaned in the spirit and was troubled. And he said, Where have you laid him? And they said, Lord, come and see. Verse 35, Jesus wept. The shortest verse in the Bible. It's interesting to see Jesus would weep. I love the teaching and the idea that when God made Adam, the fullness of the image of God was put into Adam. But then when God took Eve from his side, I personally was fully convinced the first time I heard Ken Graves at our men retreat teaching this, how many of the attributes of God were taken from man and put into woman. It doesn't mean that no men are this way, but I think on the whole, you'll find that very much men are alike and women are alike. That's a pretty general thing I think we'd all agree to. And women are often very emotional compared to men. Men hide their feelings. Women are usually more open about their feelings. And what's fascinating when we watch Jesus is that he is the fullness of God in man. And so often we would see emotions in Jesus that are much more compassionate, caring, and open with his feelings than we see in the typical man. And in all honesty, I think it's something that most men could do better on, being open with their emotions, open with how they feel, open and moved by things. I think in order to be a man, God has given us an ability to hold back our feelings. I will steal this straight from Ken too. I love it. Because, guys have to face difficulties. If you hear a window break in the middle of the night downstairs, and you hear a door get kicked open, and the kids run into mom and dad's room, the wife runs to the dad, and they hear someone's in the house. No one wants a dad who's going to sit there with the family and go, Don't worry, I'm scared too. No, you want someone who can suck up his feelings and go there with a baseball bat and take this guy out. So, Judah's with me again today. And so, we want someone who can hold back their feelings, and God gave men the ability to do that, but it can be a downfall, that men are afraid to weep. Men are afraid to let their emotions come out, but this is what Jesus did. And if Jesus did it, it's good enough for me. And weeping is medicinal, and it's something that I think we all should not go often without. Because I think we all need those reality checks from time to time about the wickedness of sin, the pain it brings, the desperate situation with the lost, or just seeing the beauty in our children and a baby's laugh, to be able to weep in joy and weep in sorrow. I think it's something that we all need from time to time, and we should ask God. If you haven't wept in a while, it's like, Lord, give me a reason to weep. And just break me. Because I think that's part of weeping, is it's when you finally let go of all of the toughness, all the callous that this world builds upon our hearts, and you just fall before the Lord and just you become totally open and bare before him. And so Jesus wept. And the Jews said, See how he loved him. And it's funny because you wonder why Jesus wept. He knew what he would do, and some scholars believe, and we can only wonder and guess, but that Jesus knows where Lazarus is right now and where Lazarus has been for 4 days. And he's weeping perhaps because he's taken him away from there. I remember Chuck Smith always used to say that if one day I'm ascending to heaven, I see the light, I'm drawing closer and closer, and then all of a sudden I get sucked away and I open my eyes and you're there giving me mouth to mouth, I'm going to choke you. And so taken away from heaven. I was so close. All right, so verse 37, some of them said, Could not this man who opened the eyes of the blind have also kept the man from dying? Then Jesus, again groaning in himself, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone lay against it, similar to Jesus' own tomb, but his was chiseled out of rock, where this is a cave, but both had the stone. Jesus said, "Take away the stone." Martha, the sister of him who was dead, said to him, "Lord, by this time there is a stench, for he has been dead 4 days." The Authorized King James is, "Lord, he stinketh." I like that. Verse 40, "Did I not say to you that it would be that if you would believe, you would see the glory of God?" And they took away the stone from the place where the dead man was laying. And Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me, and I know that you always hear me. But because of the people who are standing by, I said this, that they may believe that you sent me." Now when he had said these things, he cried with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come forth." And he who had died come out bound hand and foot with the grave clothes, and his face was wrapped in a cloth. Jesus said to them, "Loose him and let him go." So, Lazarus comes forth. I always like the joke I've heard where it's a good thing he said, "Lazarus, come forth," because if he had just said, "Come forth," everyone would have been coming out of the tomb. You'll notice that Jesus also said, "Lord, you always hear me, but I'm saying these things that these people may believe." It would be a beautiful thing if more Christians would start calling upon God in faith, believing that he would answer as a witness to the rest of this world. Once again, Judah and I just finished reading about George Mueller, and that was his whole life's purpose. His life's purpose was not to save orphans. His life's purpose was to show the world what praying in faith could accomplish through a simple man who just took God at his word and believed him. So, cool things today. Why don't you spend some time today? Get away, get alone, pray in faith, and weep. There's something worth weeping over in your life, because there's always something worth weeping over in my life. And so, it's good food for thought. Love you guys. Take care, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Say bye, Judah.